welcome, kings and queens. Kings and queens, welcome. How you guys doing this evening? I'm your host, King, and welcome to the show, Menspire. Very first show of the episode for this evening. And today I'm joined by brother Theo. And today we're going to be discussing a few topics, like I said before, that we have deemed taboo. So, brother Theo, real quick, man, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, good evening. Born and raised in Virginia. I'm a military brat. Been moving around since I was a child. After that, family moved around a lot. Lived everywhere on the East Coast, from Virginia, a little bit of Florida. Then I went into the military myself. Oddly enough, moved out to Seattle. Been there for 3 years. Came back to Atlanta about 6 months ago. Um, Found therapy myself while I was out there in the military, out there in Seattle. Had a therapist for about 2 years while I was married, and it did wonders. Did my life excellent. I mean, extremely well. I found it to be part of my life. I'll probably never give up. You know what I mean? But as soon as I found it there and moved back, I mean, a lot of things transpired for me to have to that I felt like I needed to create my own platform, so to speak, to a lot of things that was happening in the past, like 10 years actually. Trayvon Martin was 2011, if I can remember. But yeah, Eric Garner happened, and then after that, of course, Mr. Floyd unfortunately happened. His assassination happened. So I was like, all right, something's got to happen. Um, Traveling the world, seeing things happen that across the country that happen in all places that I went as a black man. I'm like, something's happening. Things are getting weird and things are getting worse. So I'm like, what can I do as an African American man to help me, my future son, and men who look like me to not die like a dog in the street without retribution? So I was like, what can we do? There's nothing that you or I, or any single man or woman in our ethnicity or race that can attack this government to give us our just due. They created this, they gonna keep it, unfortunately. So I'm like, what can we do as black men to stop that from happening? It's just a misunderstanding that's happening, but what is it? So I'm like, we gotta take accountability. Therapy, that's all therapy is. All your therapists, not all, but the first thing a therapist can do is they're just gonna hold up a mirror their entire time and say, hey, this is you, these are your problems, and this is how we gonna fix it. So I'm like, black men need to do that. There is some accountability that needs to happen on our part. So I'm like,
Very true.
let me take just what I know from therapy and give it to black men. So that's how my podcast came about.
So, ladies and gentlemen, if you do not know, May is Mental Health Awareness Month. Um, it's a big reason why we're debuting this show in May. The show is geared and centered around mental health, but more focused on men's mental health. So, like I said, with you developing a podcast for men's mental health, I think that's it's one of the perfect ways of kind of just diving into why we have this month, why we have mental health awareness month, and why is it so important, and why is it something that needs to be discussed.
Oh, facts. I'm with you.
One of the main things, if you guys don't know, if you're unaware, if this is new to you, mental health, the actual definition of mental health is a person's condition with regard to their psychological and emotional well-being. Um, like I said, it's very important to discuss. I myself, as someone who battles depression, and I say battles versus battle because it's a constant battle. It's a daily battle, and I've battled for going on 10 years. But if you would have asked my friends, they would not know that. If you would have asked other people who battle depression or who battle mental health issues, their friends wouldn't know that. So it's important that we have these discussions. That's one of the reasons why this platform and platforms like Brother Theo's is created is because, especially in the black community, we do not talk about these things. We have deemed them taboo. Generations have deemed them taboo, and now we're at a whole new, we're on a cusp of this awakening. Everyone's woke, but in this one particular area, not many people are actually learning and discovering this. So that's one of the reasons why, like I said, this platform has been created. So, Brother Theo, just let's dive more into your platform, man. Um, like I said, why we understand that you went through these trials and tribulations. You were definitely affected by some current events that happened on the outside. Why did you deem yourself, hey man, I need therapy? Not only that I need therapy, but I need to create this platform and kind of bring this message to people.
So to be transparent, to be honest, that's what therapy is also about. So I was in the army. I was married. I got married prior to being army. I was married my entire army career. So we went to marriage counseling. So I had a marriage counselor. We went to. My significant other at the time quit the marriage counseling, so I just kept going. So my marriage counselor turned into my therapist. She's licensed. She's a licensed practitioner, do therapy and marriage counseling and solo counseling. So I just kept going to see her. And as I went, I found out, I thought I was like an intelligent, well-adjusted young man. I was fine. Graduated high school, went to college, went to the military. I was doing AKA, well, fine, quote unquote, fine. But as I went and as my therapist held up the mirror, I was finding out little things that was causing my relationship to go sour. It was going trash. The things that I was doing, it just helped me rise my self accountability to help me realize, all right, these little things, these little micro things I could figure out, it can help me out in life. Fast forward, I was going about 2 years strong in therapy. Fast forward, George Floyd happened. And the world's going awry, we get all this attention, Black Lives Matter, all that good jazz. And something just hit. It was like, he was like number 14 in 10 years of just a line of black men getting assassinated and nothing happening. So I'm like, all right, this is a theme that's going to happen unless not just we as black men do something, we got to create platforms and legislation. That's the biggest thing to happen for this to stop happening.
Very true.
And I just got tired of it happening, and I was like, ain't nobody else doing this, ain't nobody else talking about this. It's a big niche. I knew it would hit, like podcasting, everybody's doing it. So I knew this was something nobody was really touching on as far as black men. If it's mental health, it's cool. It's all other ethnicities. There are some other black podcasts start about mental health, but not specifically black men. So I was like, shoot, why not doing it? Let me be the solution, and here we are.
Yeah, man. I mean, I can completely understand. Like I said, that was one of the things for me. It was you would see podcasts, you would hear, you could hear podcasts and shows, and everyone's talking about mental health, but man, the numbers don't lie when it comes to men versus women in mental health, and that number drastically changes when you specifically talk about black men. And I mean, you got to think, we come from an age, especially now. I mean, anyone who's listening to this show, you're well into your 20s, your 30s. You're coming from a generation of men, fathers who, did not talk. Like, I know for a fact, at least with my father, man, he worked. That was about it.
Yeah.
We weren't coming in here like, oh, hey, dad, hey, son, how was you feeling? How was your day? It was, I went to work, and there's food on the table. Now I'm about to go to bed.
Right.
So, I mean, you're coming from that type of generation, and you're thinking to yourself, man, hey, all this that's going on in the world, everything that's going on, no one's talking about how it's affecting you mentally. No one's talking about how, and I want to say this because everyone always has this thing, especially I know firsthand, because there's always people that paint an image of how you're supposed to look when you're dealing with mental health or you're dealing with mental health issues. people always think that if you're depressed or you're dealing with depression, you're supposed to be sad. You're always walking around like there's a cloud over your head, and that's not the
Yeah.
case. I know for me, like I said, I've battled for 10 years, and most people in my close circle did not know about it until maybe 2 years ago. As
Damn.
I was opening up more about it, they weren't. They were oblivious to it. They were like, man, dude, you're the guy that makes everybody laugh. You're the joker. How are you dealing with this? And like I said, people paint this picture of how you're supposed to look, um, without knowing all these different types of mental health issues that go on. I mean, one of the biggest ones we know about, of course, is depression.
Yeah.
Um,
So me myself, I was about to ask you, how much do you attest or chalk that up to? Because the usual thing about men in general in America, there's a lot of there's social programming that's been happening for over 50 since the inception of this country, and there's this societal norm that we've all programmed to believe about. I hate the term hypermasculinity because I hate terms that get overused. That shit annoys me. But there is this thing about this protector and provider, and I always I don't fight that in its entirety, but it's a mentality and a rhetoric to where that comes with being a protector and provider. Where
because that's all you hear when you're growing up.
that's it, and it's like, and the black community is different because there's a whole other responsibility that goes on top of that if you black, because we are, especially come from slavery. If you get beat as a man, as a black man, for you to sit there as a slave and not to be able to do anything and see your entire family get beaten, that kind of plays with the mind of the entire family, the nucleus of the family, right? My
If I'm
dad.
not mistaken, and you guys please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was called buck breaking.
All right, so shit. So did you like read more articles and like Google that? Did you read through what actually they did and how that shit
I
worked?
have before. And I mean, man,
Crazy.
Crazy.
Excuse my French.
that was some
Stuff.
crazy
Shit.
shit. You can't deny it. Some of the things that were done, but again, we've made it, or I won't say that but society has made it a new norm. It's just that instead of us beating you publicly in front of your family, we're now beating you in your finances. We're now beating you with police brutality, with police reform, with prison.
Mm.
There's so many different things that they're beating us with now. That is destroying that nucleus family.
I would go even far. So I interviewed therapists. I try to interview just mental health professionals, period. But I want to do something different later on. But I spoke to one young lady and the other one. They go as far as to put it in. That's why I say legislation. They go as far as put it in black and white, literally, in the hood or in the low income neighborhood. In Section 8, it's in black and white. They tell these young mothers, single mothers who aren't married, if you live in there, a natural born man, cannot be inside this home if you live in Section 8 after a certain hour in the evening. Now, mind you, in the hood, that's probably the number one factor that keeps breaking up the black nucleus, right? Having babies out of wedlock and you aren't married.
Mm-hmm.
You've literally said in black and white that you cannot be a whole family or even co-parent within the home. Due to what? Now, in today's time, fast forward 2021, there's this huge gender war going on between black men and women. How is that happening? A lot of this white structure, this what's it called? Fucking can't think of it. But a lot of the structure that's in societal racism is literally in black and white. To what extent, for what reason could you literally put that in black and white? What does it matter? If you know, as white people who've grown up in this structure, you know that it does good to children to have a man and a woman in the home. Why'd you literally put it in words in black and white? It's in the book to say no men can be in this household after a certain time. Come on now. And that was furthering along this disconnect between men and women. This bickering, this fighting we doing, we not even seeing how this all this crap starts in America. But anyway, that's another rabbit hole.
No, I mean, but most deaf. I mean, and it goes back to, like I said, the systematic breaking down of the nucleus, the body, and the mind. I mean, you think about it, how many people are actually just sitting here and like you said, the male and female disconnect amongst blacks, to where now you have, and trust me, it's not a knock to single mothers. And shout out to the single mothers out there. Um,
It got nothing to do with them.
continue, queens, to be your best, but it's a issue when you now are taking on that responsibility and the wherewithal of raising a king, and without having a man in the household, it goes back to those same things that people experience, those mental health issues. I mean, you now your son can now develop anxiety and panic attacks, identity disorder.
Mm-hmm.
It's so many things that plays factor into it, and we as blacks, especially black men, we overlook these things, and we just take it as, oh man, it is what it is, man. They always been thrown off, they always been crazy, but that's not the case. There's these actual underlying disorders that we have refused to discuss for generations that need to be brought to the forefront.
Think about, all right. So, let me think about. How can I put this? Think about that hypermasculinity term. It's always thrown towards black men, but think about how growing up, if you have a single mom, that naturally, as a man and woman, you emit certain type of hormone more than one other. So you got testosterone, you got estrogen. As a young man, you're supposed to have an equal balance growing up, pre-puberty, to get to the point where you're equally balanced to go forward to be a man, to go to the passage of manhood. But if it's imbalanced, the man's not at home, you live in the hood, that community literally doesn't allow you to have enough of testosterone as you grow up for you to be a balanced human being, to be a positive, a law-abiding citizen of society. So you grow up, only your mom in there. You know the self-destructive cycle. For some women, there are, for a very good fraction, and for men, you need to stand up. Some of y'all aren't doing your job. Let's just be honest. I'm on both sides. I understand both sides. If you're not in there doing what you're supposed to do and being present, that young boy is not going to grow up to be balanced to where he understands how to handle some certain situations when he's supposed to be getting in fights, dealing with women and relationships, and definitely, as we can see, dealing with police stand-ins, what you're supposed to do, how you're not supposed to be. Mind you, we're all men, we got egos, I got it, good, but what matters to me is whether you're alive or not. If you're overly aggressive and hyper masculine, and you can't understand that in this small instance, if you can just swallow your pride and just say, all right, yes sir, no sir, to get through this so you can be alive, a father is gonna have to teach you that. You growing up in your hood with your buddies was the first thing. Oh, you gonna let him joke on you, bro? Don't let him do that to you.
I'm gonna have to touch that another time, because I personally don't. I mean, I can understand it, especially being a father and being a father of a young black boy. I understand that we have to have those conversations of guiding our youth on interactions. But one thing I've always hated is the simple fact that I have to have that conversation of guiding my youth to that interaction.
So I'm with you, trust me, and I don't have a son, and I fear it in the future, and I do fear having children, honestly, to be transparent. But the thing about me is, doubling back to why I created a podcast. What can we do about it? I'm mad too. I should not have to, but we live in reality, and we have been drugged here from Africa to America. We here now, but it's still their country. The reason why I created a podcast. What are we gonna do? I shouldn't. He should be able to go outside, be black, and then come home alive. But we aren't. So the only thing I care about is us as black men staying alive. Unfortunately, it sucks, but we gotta be like, all right, this is how you have the interaction, this is how you not. And there needs to be a balance. The mom is supposed to be nurturing, the man is supposed to be the disciplinary. If that imbalance happens and you in the hood growing up, like I said, you chopping on each other, roasting. First thing you do, you get mad, you get sensitive, and now you want to fight. You come to a cop, you feel like he disrespects you, and you don't understand the difference. And this is not your homeboys on the block. Like, you need to be saying, "All right, give him your ID, let him know my hands is up, blase blase, and just get it over with." The man not being in the home and that being constructed for that is the industrial prison pipeline to get that young black boy to go from the hood straight to jail, so you get free labor, modern day slavery.
Very true, very true. And I know I was watching a show not too long ago, man. Yeah, let me know if you're familiar with it. It was American Gods.
I only seen a couple of episodes. I saw the one on the ship, and I saw one with something. It's a great show.
Well, there was a powerful scene, man, with Orlando Jones, and man, I mean, just the speech that he gave in that particular scene, it correlates exactly what we're talking about.
I know you're talking about. He was on the ship. He was like,
no, it was another one. He was actually he was at the I think he was at the morgue.
Didn't see it. No.
But he talked very loosely about many of the things that affect our black generation, man. And I only brought that up to say, man, it's obvious how mental health, men's mental health, like I said, the month of May is Mental Health Awareness Month. It's obvious of how important it is. So I want to ask, as a black man, how does this relate to you?
Let's see, what can I say?
As your day-to-day operation, I guess.
So I learned a few things from my therapist personally, and it's a constant work. Like with battling depression, along with therapy, it's a constant work. One thing I always stress to people and on a podcast, whenever I interview something, at the end I always let them know this is a constant life's work. Of not to scare anyone off. Therapy isn't like a pill a doctor's gonna give you, and in 6 months you're no longer diseased, right? The thing about the mind being diseased is that it can happen psychoactively. It happens in occurrences. Your chemistry always happens in your brain, so it's gonna present itself. Another thing about therapy is coping mechanisms. When that comes back up, what can you do to help keep this at bay or to help get you back to healing? So for me, my therapist basically gives me like a self-care routine. She recommends a couple of books for me to read, and that gives me down the line to reading more books. And another big thing for black men, what we don't do is you need to find a safe space. And I can't really define it if I look on Google now, but essentially, in short, in layman's terms, a safe space is a person or a group of people who you can, without caution or without you second guessing yourself, speak about your problems and issues and your feelings openly, without contest, without anyone judging you, without anyone questioning you. Most people find it in a wife, girlfriend, grandmothers. Usually that's everyone go to their grandma. They're the most understanding. I try to find those spaces. I don't have them at this point, which is why another reason why I go to therapy. But yeah, I got a self-care routine I try to do every day, to be honest. That's also a part of my mental health. I try to look through everything I do through that funnel. What's going to serve me, what's going to keep me healthy, and what's going to keep me sane.
Definitely. Just to touch back on what you said about having those safe spaces, man. I know with me, like I said, dealing with what I've been dealing with, I didn't have anyone, like I said, close by at the particular time. Now, being a husband and father, going back, and I'm looking at some of the things that my wife has done. Like one thing that I've learned, I kind of piggyback off from her. She has a tribe. She has a tribe, and I'm pretty sure most of the ladies have that. They have their tribe of friends that they can go to about anything. One big issue that I always saw was that if I went to certain friends, they were judging. And the biggest thing about, they weren't necessarily even judging, but, and I tell people this now, to this day, you have to mind the company that you keep, because not everybody's there for you. I would have people who were there for me but weren't there for me. They would take what I would tell them and either make it into a joke, a running gag amongst the group,
Mm.
or they would take it as, "Oh man, I have something over you now." That's one of the biggest things that I know, me personally, and it's not for everybody, but that's one of the things that kind of steered me away from opening up to other people, especially other guys, because we were all, we were just naturally competitive with one another. So it's, hey, I don't need you to know my flaw.
Yeah, especially when it comes to feeling, everything's the locker room talk, man. Everything's a joke. We don't take it as men. We just don't take it seriously. But that's another thing about this country, America, because they don't take us seriously in that form. Women naturally are raised and bred to be emotional, cry whenever you want, be in your feelings, because that's what women do. Men don't do that in America. You're supposed to get up, go to work, take care of your family, and don't open your mouth. We don't care how you feel. Do you pay the bills? Do you take care of the household? Is your wife happy? Can your kids eat, go to school, have clothes on their back? All right, bro, you good. If you doing that, you good. We don't want to hear what you're talking about. We don't care how you feel. And that happens every day in your relationships, unfortunately. I mean, mind you, us as millennials and going on down to Gen Z, we're doing a way better job of at least talking about it. But I never try to. I try to not stop recommending therapy, but I try to tell people that safe space thing. I mean, you got a wife now, so if you didn't marry her, I'm pretty sure she's automatically that type of safe space. But one thing I learned while I was married, there's certain things I ain't want to tell my ex-wife now, because I ain't want her to figure it out yet. I wanted me to figure it out and then present it to her and be like, all right, this is a flaw that I used to have. I'm working on it now. Now I realize, if you really gonna make that commitment, and if you marry someone and she's your helpmate, you gotta be willing to see you with your holes. That's why I did. Don't try to help and fill them up and think, oh well, she got, especially as men, we protect the provider again. You can't be seen as weak. You can't have holes. You can't be seen as like,
but for anything less than what we've been defined as.
And ironically enough, women want to see you as flawed as possibly can, because what I learned is that lets them know you trust them, and that creates even a better bond. That's something I had to realize after a damn divorce, but
Oh yeah, I've been there. I've learned now, in almost 6 years that I've been married, compared to year one of me keeping certain things. Hey, I'm dealing with this, and I'm pushing that to the backside so I can keep that macho.
Cheese on shit.
Yeah, I'm hustling. I'm out here bringing home the bacon, everything. But
Man.
then I will get that look, and we'll have those conversations of, that's fine, I'm provided for, I'm protected, but I'm still not complete because you're not complete. And one thing, as men, and like I said, millennials and Gen Z, we're doing a much better job of it. And the women in the company that we keep are showing us and telling us day in and day out, this is what we want. We want you guys to be vulnerable. We want you guys to be transparent, because, like you said, that shows that you trust us. That shows that you care for us, and that you're not going to hide those feelings just to keep up an image. So it's very important that, like I said, and all this does tie back into that men's mental health and the things that we go through. I know one thing that's always going to be constant is that we're going to always have to continue these discussions, these conversations, especially with our significant others or with our children. just like the stories of the old, the things that were passed down from generation. This too needs to be passed down, because if not, we're gonna see a decline, not just in the black male population, but in their masculinity,
Hmm.
in their comfort zones, in their areas. We're going to see a decline in that because people are not going to feel that they can be who they truly are.
So, one thing about what you said about masculinity is interesting because there's attack on the masculinity, especially black masculinity, and I can't speak too much about it. I don't like to speak about people who have other podcasts, but there's a pretty prominent. He's not. I don't want to say the podcast. He just has YouTube, but there's a pretty prominent guy who's now trying to teach men how to be men. Right? It's the biggest thing on Instagram. He's the hottest thing on Twitter. And he's getting so much pushback from women. And he's an African American man. So he's having so much pushback from African American women. And I'm a person who I draw a line in the sand and I can't really I rock with him and then I don't. I'm never someone who rides on either other extreme. So the other guy, the Facebook relationship guru, his ass got taken down. So I'm not gonna talk about that clown too much. But everybody was pitting these two guys together, and one side was all for the men, and the other side was all for the women. And I'm looking, I'm like, all of y'all are clowns because y'all following these clowns because they're just serving y'all. They're just telling y'all what y'all want to hear, and so you could bring these clips to men or bring these clips to women and be like, look, this is what we're supposed to do. And so for the other guy who's for the men, so to speak, he's getting attacked because he's trying to keep up this idea of what men are supposed to do and this thing about masculinity. And I'll never tell anyone to subscribe to anyone. Even myself, I would ask that you should, so that I'm interviewing actual therapists, so you're gonna get the real help and healing that you need. But as far as this guy goes and masculinity goes, he's getting attacked by women because he's basically telling men you should love yourself, you should respect yourself, and you should have high standards, as high standards as these women these days.
Mm-hmm.
And for some reason, goddamn, I wanna make it a race thing. Let's just say women. For some reason, women are hating this man, trying to burn him down because he's trying to get other black men to love themselves. Now you tell me if that's not another part of social programming for where this whole women's empowerment, this whole women's retreat, and they CEOs, they the most educated. It's some majority of black men are championing you. So we got one man that raises to the top, and now he's trying to champion black men, and all of a sudden we got to stop now. What you talking about? It's not like black men and women can't have their time at the same time, but yeah, everyone talks about how black men need to speak up. Black men, y'all need to be more emotional. Y'all so hard and y'all don't show yourselves. You so sorry. You're not so sorry. Y'all so hard and I can't connect with you. Well, this man here is sitting here trying to talk to us to get black men to understand you the prize too. You know what I'm saying? You can voice your opinion. You can have a standard. I think that's all part of mental health. As a black man, if you don't have security in yourself, for us black men, we're so sensitive, and the reason why we're hyper masculine and over aggressive is because we haven't been taught how to feel. You're not taught how to process anger, right?
Don't get two emotions.
Happiness,
that's how my
right?
daddy told me. He's like, nah, you
God
get two
damn.
emotions.
Angry is you get happy, angry or sad. No, sad is the same thing. Happy or you sad. And we want to get taught how to properly be. There's a way for you to properly be angry. It's called angry. You could be angry in a healthy way for whatever that looks like. Growing up, as far as I knew, from my dad's Haitian, so he's from he's from a third world country, so he don't even understand emotions. I've never seen this man cry except for one time while we was in church, and he didn't even really speak about it. No, twice. That's lies. His father passed away, and we was in church. Somebody had to die for him. His father had to die for me to see him cry a second time. What type of shit is that? As a black man, you can't sit here and cry for your family in the home. None of that. Because of what? Because this country says so? Because you gotta be a protector and provider? I mean, I hate that term. I keep bringing up the term because I hate it, because it means something different for when women keep saying it. Y'all are saying one thing, but you want us to bring another. For me, when I hear that term protector provider, I hear a guy that's supposed to go to work, come home, take care of you and his kids, and that's it. I don't care how you feel, I don't care what you do. If that's what you mean, do not label me that. That's not. I'm not a robot. I'm not here for a means of your bank account for you to just live. Okay, if you do what the hell you want in this household. No, that's not what it means for me. If you say I'm toxic, I'll be that. If I'm hyper masculine because of that, I'll be that. I feel like neither one of us, black men or women, we're not listening to each other. Nobody's listening to each other's plight. Nobody's trying to understand each other. We just at each other's neck 24/7, man. I'm tired of it.
I can understand that. I definitely can. And like anything else in life, man, it's definitely some things that we're gonna have to work on. But more importantly, these are one of the things that we as men gotta take care of first. And I mean, I love the fact that you brought up this particular
Oh boy.
oh boy. I mean, one of the reasons why I created this platform was based off that actual Facebook guru, man.
Dang.
Yeah. I got tired of hearing a man tell a woman how to adjust her crown, and it bothered me. It bothered me. And I won't. And again, ladies, I'm not telling you that your crown is not important. I salute and love all queens. But my thing was, as a man, take your platform and before you tell a female how to adjust her crown, make sure that your brethren are walking and shining in the light as kings first. Because a lot of the things that you was telling them, and then you go off and tell them that men ain't shit and this, that, and the third. But adjust your brothers first, man.
Facts.
If you this high and mighty guy, man, get your brothers in line, show them how to step before they meet these queens, and then you won't even have to tell them to make sure that your crown stay on your head, that men ain't shit, this, that, and the third. And I don't want to rant because this is not about him, but that was one thing that kind of just stuck out to me.
It's the top of anything about him because his empire is over. Well, there's still people gonna follow him, but as far as I'm concerned, he'll never be where he wanted to be. His empire is over. But I see what you're saying, and the way I took it from what you just said, what I heard when you said that is like, it's like, and that's why the 2-parent household is big. Because how can you tell a woman how to act or live with another man when you're not a woman? All you doing is the only thing he was doing. I never watched that, man. That's on my soul. But of course, women is bringing clips and trying to shove it down our mouth all the time. See, this is a real man. This is the real black man. Y'all not keep it up. Y'all need to listen to him. And the whole time, every clip I ever watch, I'm sitting here, I was like, how can you as a man tell a woman how to be a woman? You've never been a woman in your entire life. How can you tell them how to act? How can you tell them? The only thing you could do is you could probably advise them on how what us as men want. But that's not what he was doing.
That wasn't what he was doing.
All he was doing was telling them, this is what you need to do. This is what you got to do. These are the men you should look for. These are the men who you should avoid. And these are the men who not appreciating. How do you know? Women aren't monolithic, for one thing. They all don't want. There are certain things they want. Trust, loyalty. You know what I'm saying? Don't cheat. But some of them want different things. Some of them don't care. Some of them don't want a super macho man. Some of them want a little more sensitive. I don't know. Once again, it's not about him. It was about the topic. It was about how can you as a man teach women anything? You can't raise a girl on your own. She's going to be imbalanced. That's another thing with men. A woman, no matter how strong you feel you are, and yes, y'all are doing an amazing job. Y'all are strong. I'm with it. But no matter what, that child is going to grow up imbalanced emotionally to a certain extent. You can't have one or the other. There's a phrase that says too much of anything isn't a good thing. You can literally die from drinking too much water. But what does the doctor tell you? Drink 8 glasses a day. So you can't do too much. You can't have too much of anything on this planet. You got to have a balance. That's what life is about.
So speaking of that balance, man, I'm glad you said that. So with mental health, what's the link between mental health and success?
I had to talk about this personally because there are a couple of, as far as celebrities go, and you go down that road, some of them aren't balanced. A lot of them turn to drugs. A lot of them, they turned out, they go to jail, they bent.
Hold on, and before we get into that, man, if you don't know, I know some people have asked me this before. Yes, substance abuse is a form of mental health. A lot of people don't know that, or they choose not to believe it. But you have celebrities, man, that will go out here that reach these highs in their life, and they can't handle that same pressure, and it literally breaks on them mentally. And what happens? Go to substance abuse. So I just want to drop that little nugget in there.
You 100%. It's an addiction like alcohol.
Yeah.
Addiction is a mental. Your brain and the actual chemical they taking adjust their brain chemistry, and it causes them to be even more addicted as they take it. So your body gets dependent on it. So now you hooked on this shit. You're in a jail cell with this shit forever. So you're 100% right. And those people, some of those people, quote unquote, say they're successful just because they're millionaires, billionaires. So I just have to say, personally, for me, mental health with success, for me, links to me being holistically and fully happy within myself. I call it being centered or enlightened. And so, no matter how much money I make, no matter how good, blessed me, and my next wife go look like, and how great my kids are, am I happy internally? Am I okay with where I'm gonna be at or where I'm at? Do I really look like do I really feel like I'm successful what I'm doing right now, even though I got a plan 5 years ahead? And that's another thing. You could be goal oriented, you could be a hustler, you could be a go getter, CEO. But are you happy right now with what you got? Are you present in the moment, and are you appreciative? That's a big thing, right? Sometimes you can move too fast and you could crash the car if you're not appreciative. Whether or not, excuse all religions, whether or not you believe, I'm a Christian, so sometimes God will give and take away. When he takes away, I personally think he sees you as not being appreciative for what you have, and he can make you crash the car. Something's gonna happen, you be like, why is this happening to me? I was good, I was up, I'm making 6 figures, got a wife, got kids, and then why am I in the hospital right now from a car crash or something? Or why do I got cancer? Why do I all of a sudden have this crazy terminal illness? Something happened to where you was messing up. But there has to be a balance there. I feel like if I could get to an enlightened point to where no matter what's happening around me, I'm happy eternally and I'm appreciative of what I got, I feel like that's quote unquote success with personal life and my mental health. I think if any person can do that, I think you'll find I think that's a great balance, personally.
Yeah, most definitely, most definitely. With mental health and your success, like I said, it's for me. It's just like you said, man. It's about finding that balance and being centered, man. Um, Especially now, I take a lot of things that I know that I would have done when I was a lot younger. Um, I take it with a grain of salt. I try to, kind of move differently, kind of think more progressive with my thinking, and going and pretty much trying to just like I said, remain centered, remain balanced, remain at peace. My inner peace is the most thing
Exactly.
that is important to me now. And I tell people all the time, dude, I refuse to let someone destroy my inner peace.
Exactly.
So
I used to say that.
you have to have that mindset, and you know, especially with us being men, and going back to, like we said, man, having those emotions that we never really ventured in or explained
Yeah.
as kids, and being younger. It was hard to see that okay, man, being at peace with your decisions with life is important. One thing I remember that I talked about a few years ago, and hopefully one day I'll bring it to this show, is being crippled by comparison. And it was mainly just me talking about how, as a kid, I was jealous of a lot of things that other people had. And it wasn't even a monetary thing or a physical thing. It was just more so just different aspects of their life that I wanted. And I had to actually be, as I grew and got older and became an adult and understood more, and like I said, started focusing more on myself and what I have, I had to understand that, man, my inner peace was was is what's most important, and that I couldn't be compared to anything.
Mm.
That I had to focus more on me and what I'm doing out here. But
That's what they call that. That's where they keeping up with the Joneses thing happen. Like,
yeah,
keep your house in order. That's the really only thing that matter. Cause what are other people gonna do for you anyway? That's one of the biggest problems about our generation. It's like it gets shoved in our face so much between Twitter and Instagram. People are looking on there like comparing your own life and like, oh, I don't have a Wraith, or I don't have $250,000 house. It's like that's not to say that's not normal. It should be. Everyone should be living comfortably. But like, you know what I'm saying? Having a Wraith isn't really, you know what I'm saying, normal. It's like people aren't just driving around with Wraiths all the time. And you sitting here trying to run it up and spin it, be a hustler, and you burning yourself out. And that probably not what you like. Do you even like how the Wraith looks? Do you like a Wraith? Do you know how it's built?
and like you said, you're burning yourself out.
Mm.
Um, you're going through so much. You're trying to obtain everything. And like I said, it all comes back to, man, that mental health. It all comes back to the things of us trying to, be things that were not, things that were taught to us that were deemed normal then, that we're now looking back at and saying, okay, man, these were some issues that we did not face. Um, I know me personally, I have not gone into therapy. I'm actually looking for a therapist now.
Okay, good. Glad to hear. Glad to hear.
Looking for a therapist now beforehand. So I'm excited about the ventures that we'll be taking. But I want to ask you this before we wrap up, man. We've said it time and time again throughout the show tonight. But in your personal opinion, why is mental health in our communities so taboo? Why is it just something that we as a culture steer away from?
Hmm. So, let me see how can I take this. There's two things too, and excuse everyone who, once again, respect everybody's religion, and everyone who is a Christian. Respect to you. I am a Christian. I do practice the faith. But that one aspect is religion. So I think we all know, for those who are descendants of Africans, you grew up in America, everyone's Christian. You're Baptist. Let's just go from there. As you're growing up, you got Big Ma, Grandma, who drag you to church every Sunday. You're not gonna miss it, and you better pay attention. One thing that it stems from why it's taboo is when you got, let's say, I make it personally. I got an uncle who was the drunk uncle, right? And everyone just thought he was just either crazy or he just effed up his life by staying in the streets and drinking. Me being through therapy, I look at him now. He is addicted to alcohol. He's an alcohol addiction. But I'm thinking, what brought it to him? So personally, my grandmother passed away before I was even born. He was a teenager himself. That caused mental health issues. That caused him to run to the street. He probably never properly grieved. Grieving is it's like a 5-step process that you go through. If you don't go through that properly, you have arrested development. Meaning you stunt your emotional part of your brain gets stunted, and so you start to act out. You get into fights, you hang with gangs, you sell drugs. That's what happened to my uncle. But guess what? Probably all the old folks in the hood probably said it was wrong with him. Oh, he's just a bad kid. You just a kid. You need to take the belt to him more. Or first thing we go is, that ain't nothing but the devil. How many times you growing up you heard an elderly black woman say, ain't nothing but the devil? You need to pray away. Get on your knees every night and pray about him. He'll be alright, child. Your son will be alright if you pray. Okay, the scripture says, and people like to funnel over stuff. I was about to curse talking about the word. People like to funnel over stuff. The word says faith without work is dead. Meaning you have to do something. God is not going to sit here and say, oh, you just think of me every day and you go to church and I take care of you. You got to do something. A part of that is taking a child and going to talk to someone, not even therapy. Going to talk to someone, asking, hey, what's wrong with you? Or it's okay to tell them it's okay to cry. Or even though mom's gone, I'm still here. Like my grandfather, I don't know what my grandfather did. I should have asked him for it. He passed away, but not saying he's a horrible parent. He definitely isn't. He raised kids on his own. Usually it's just women. He was a man in the lower income neighborhood, taking care of his family. But knowing what I know about black people, he probably never grabbed him to the side and said, "Hey, how you feeling? How does it feel not to have a mom now? Or I'm here for you. I'm doing all I can." All we do is say, "Hey, that's the devil. Go pray it away. You'll be all right." The other thing is finances. I would say it's taboo because who can afford it? I asked my therapist. She's like, "Yeah, I could charge 200, 210 an hour." What? If
Yeah.
you going, I went saw my therapist once a week. So 200 times four, that's about $800.
Yeah, I'm in the wrong profession.
That's somebody rent. Come on now. We talk
I'm
about
in the wrong profession.
talk about it. $800 a month. That's some people rent. Some people living in the hood. That's rent. Literally, they can't live in their home for a month if they go to therapy. So how can you balance it out, right? That's another thing. We're already what's the word? Financially disenfranchised. We're socioeconomically, that's the word, disenfranchised. So those are the two things. Finances, people in the hood can't afford it. And the old saying of ain't nothing but the devil, the old religion. I don't want to ping it straight on religion, but it's the old folklore of it ain't nothing but the devil.
I wouldn't ping it on religion because I mean you have society in that as well. I know, man. Being a kid and being rambunctious, being a boy. I mean, and for me, being a person that talk, I like to talk. I talk a lot. You ask anybody who know me, they tell you the straight up facts. Like, yeah, man, that dude can talk till he get blue in the face. But the thing is that we were getting labels as kids. You know, man, you got kid, and to this day we still do, especially on young black boys. Man, we get, oh, your son is ADHD. Oh man, your son is problematic. He has a disciplinary issue.
Yeah, behavior. He has a behavioral issue.
He has behavioral problems. And the thing is, we're getting all these labels, but at the same time, no one is actually sitting here saying, "Okay, man, how you feeling? What's going on at home?" I remember I talked to a buddy of mine, man, who's a counselor at an elementary school. He told me how he had 3 kids in his class, man, that will come to his office, and would literally the whole time that he had to literally go back and kind of rewrite what was written already on, I guess, on their permanent record, like they were written off as kids that got ADHD and stuff like that. And after talking to these kids, man, you learn that, okay, man, he's having problems at home. He's dealing with, you know, trauma and issues, or he's dealing with X, Y, and Z. But, you know, like I said, we're quick to write mental health off as something totally different versus facing what it is, and that it's an issue, it's a problem. And if we simply talk to people, man, it'd be a lot easier.
To give the older generation a little leeway and a scapegoat. They just didn't know. We were drugged. We didn't choose to be here. We were drugged here as slaves, and we are disenfranchised. So information is kept from us. Grandma did not know about therapy, so I got it. But after a while, after you learn, you know better, you do better. That's another thing we get taught. But yeah, it is what it is. It did us a disservice, and now, you know what I'm saying? But we as millennials, Gen Z, we doing the work. We fighting the uphill battle. It's working.
Definitely, man. And that's one thing. Like, it's definitely an uphill battle. And if we get more and more people to actually have these conversations, man, it'd be great. Like I said, man, it's only taboo until you actually have those conversations with the people that need it. I mean, like I said, if I didn't have these conversations with some very key and important people in my life, where would I be at? I mean, there's been issues and problems that I really had to kind of look in the mirror and face. And it's important, it's needed, and honestly, man, I think it's wanted now. I think it's definitely. I think more black men are actually kind of stepping forward and saying, "Hey, we want to talk."
Yeah, it's coming in different ways too. We as men talk different. I think, especially black men too. We as black men talk different. Like we are naturally aggressive, and we need to work on that. But some of the times, some of that talk you could look at as an argument. It's just a little gusto. We just like in the barber. We all know the barbershop. Sometimes we be yelling and screaming. It's not a problem. We just like that's just how we get it out, and that's how we talk. So those conversations happen. Some people might not think that's what we talking about, and that's not. Oh, y'all just arguing. Y'all just being loud black men. It's like no, we having real conversations. We opening up and talking. Like that's the biggest misconception. They think black men don't really talk about certain things. It's like we really do. It's like I don't believe in man code or whatever that shit is, but we talk about everything. We don't talk about more than women and sex and cars, clothes, and I don't know. At least I do. Let me put the onus on me.
I was about to say I do. I mean, but more and more people they're starting to see it now.
Yeah, podcasts.
Yeah, through podcasts and YouTube and videos of that nature, where people are actually saying, okay, man, these guys could actually have real open and honest conversation, and there not be any toxic masculinity behind it. And that's one of the biggest things. Like I said, that's the reason why these platforms are being created. There's a reason why people are investing their time in this, because they truly want to see change. We want to see change in our communities. We want to see changes, not just on a day-to-day basis, but like we said, all the way in legislature. We want those changes. We need those changes. Before we wrap up, man, tell the audience, man, where can they find you, man?
Oh, okay. So I'm just keep it on the podcast. So the podcast is called Mental Health Podcast with the word men in parentheses or barricades. So if you look it up on any DSP, on anywhere you can get podcasts, it's m.h.p, or you can just search my name, Mr. Theo, Theo. The Instagram is all one word, Mental Health Podcast _. On Facebook page, Mental Space Health. There's links in all the bios to all those to figure out where you can find podcast on audio, and I am on YouTube under the same name, Mental Health Podcast. You'll see the logo will be a Pan-African flag with the black fist and a silhouette of Africa in white.
Definitely, man. Well, man, I definitely appreciate you, man, coming in, sitting in the hot seat with me, man, and cracking the show open with me, man. I definitely appreciate it.
I'm blessed. I want to say, first of all, let me say thank you. Just enough being a first of a first. I'm gonna see your journey. I'm gonna try my best to follow your journey. I'm gonna share this on all my socials and whatnot. I appreciate it, man. Thank you. I don't take it for granted.
Man, so there it is. Everybody, man. This is the Menspire show, man. We just had a phenomenal discussion about mental health and mental health awareness, man. So join us. Not this week, but next week. Join us in 2 weeks as we talk more about mental health as we finish out this series for the month. Again, I am your host, King. You guys can follow me at I am King Ronin. That is IAMKYNGRONIN. Or you can follow me at the Menspire brand. That's MENSPIREBRAND. Again, thank you guys for tuning in. Remember, if you're not tuned in, you're tuned out.